In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the one God to whom all praise is due, the Lord of all the worlds, the giver of life, the author of truth, the sender of all prophets, the creator of all things. We thank him for coming to the aid of members of the human family when we stray from his path. We thank him for raising up his prophets and messengers of God wherever they have appeared on our planet. They come from one source, and they are one community. We thank Allah for Moses, the Israelite prophets that gave us the Torah and what is called the Old Testament. We thank him for Jesus and the apostles who gave us the Injil, the Gospel, and the New Testament. And we thank him for Muhammad ibn Abdullah, through whom the final revelation to the world would come, called Holy Quran. I am a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The Quran says every nation has received a messenger. My beloved Muslim family believes that the final messenger is Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. When our prophet came, the Western world had not been discovered. America had not been founded. Slavery had not begun. And the Native American people, who are the owners of this country, had not met an enemy that deprived them of life, liberty, and the pursuit of their happiness. America is in need of a messenger and a warner from God. America is in need of somebody to help her, to keep her from a destructive fall. Inside America is a people that did not ask to come here. A people that were brought out of their native land and people and brought on a westerly course. And here we are in North America. What is our condition? A people robbed and spoiled. Nearly 50 million of us who do not know our origin in the world. 50 million of us ill-acquainted with our own history, so that today they're kind enough to give us a month to study a history that is older than the sun, moon, and stars. slavery is a crime, then America is a criminal. Kidnapping is a crime, then America is a criminal. Robbery is a crime, then America is a criminal. To bring us from our native land and people and rob us of a connection to our native land and people. You have Irish here, they have a connection. You have Italians here, you have Greeks. Everybody has a connection. Ours was cut off. That's a crime. You don't wear the names of your parents. We wear the names of our former slave masters and their children. That's a crime. Other people can speak words of their native language or mother tongue, but mother gone, father gone. Motherless child sees a hard time. That's a crime. Slavery, selling another human being like a piece of property. Then, if we disobeyed Massa, to be beaten, to be burned at the stake, to be castrated. All of these horrible things have happened to us as a people. My Christian family is here, and I'm honored to be in this house of my beautiful, beautiful Christian sister, the Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. I'm honored to be here with a man that is like a spiritual father. Any preacher can go to this man and get good counsel and guidance. My brother, my friend, my pastor. And there are others here. But we have to consider that for 300 years, they never taught us to read. The Bible was a locked book, and any white person of decency that tried to teach us to read was severely punished. And so in the 1700s, they thought it not incompatible to have us as slaves and then to make us Christians. I submit to you this morning that we were never made Christians to bring us closer to Jesus. Because if we were as close to Jesus as we could be, as we should be, as we must be, we would never be in the condition that we are, and the church would never be an instrument of disunity rather than an instrument of unity of all the Christian family. nobody changed our condition. So God, as he did in the past, intervened in our affairs and in America's affairs. And his pattern is the same. He doesn't run to the ruler to choose a messenger. He doesn't go to the college to choose a messenger. He goes among the oppressed, the poor, the weak, the disadvantaged, and out of them he chooses a man and feeds that man the truth that will deliver his people and the truth that will warn the government that has mistreated his people, that perhaps they might listen and avoid utter and complete destruction. So we believe that the one who was to come has indeed come, called in your Bible the Son of Man, who would come out of the east, even as lightning shines from the east even unto the west. So shall the coming of the Son of Man be. He would come. Habakkuk the prophet saw him coming. Isaiah the prophet saw him coming. Moses saw him coming. Jesus talked about him coming. As it was, they say, in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. Is it like that today? What was it like in the days of Noah? The scripture says every imagination of the people's hearts was to do evil. How about America today? A robbery every 15 seconds. A murder every 30 seconds. Murder, robbery, rape, and racist killing. And our own fratricidal conflict, killing one another. This don't have nothing to do with Jesus. Doesn't have anything to do with Prophet Muhammad. I know my president is trying to keep away from saying Islamic terrorism. Today, I want to help my brother. I want to talk about the root of terror. The root of terror. You know, I haven't given the greetings yet. But I'm just warming up, you know. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so honored to see all of you and all of you who are watching in 190 cities where mosques and study groups are located, and all of you that are watching in the Caribbean and in West Africa and in London and in Paris, in France. I'm honored to be your brother and to have a word to say to you today about terrorism and the universal cry that is intensifying in the people for justice. I want to thank you all for coming out. I want to thank the Executive Council, laborers of the Nation of Islam, thanks to Student Minister Ismail Muhammad, Secretary P.O.W.E.R Muhammad, Supreme Captain Mustafa Muhammad, National MGT Captain Sister Sandy Muhammad, Brother Ahmed Muhammad, the Student Minister of Information, Brother Thomas, our Protocol Director, and those who are your helpers. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brother Nuri, for your great work. Where is he? Thank you. Boy, you was raising some money here today. But we got a long way to go to learn from our Christian brothers and sisters how to do this thing. But notice this. I said, my Christian brothers and sisters. I hate the division that is manifested in the world today, particularly in the world of Islam, the killing of Christians because they are Christians, the killing of Jews because they are Jews, and those who kill Muslims simply because we are Muslims. Today, in the few moments we have, I would like to say those things that unite us, to say the things that make us see each other as a family, and to say those things that will demonstrate to the world that God has raised a light in the midst of the darkness of America that shines back toward the east, where all the prophets came, but the light of the prophets has gone out in the east, and it is now alive and well in the west. I thank you all for your charity, and those of you who are watching by satellite, if you saw that email address where you could send some charity, we would be so grateful to receive it because we need it. I should be on television. No, seriously. Because every day you look like you're getting dumber. I'm sorry. Because you don't know what's happening not only around you, you don't know what's happening in the world that is coming down on you. You should be tired of milquetoast teaching. And you won't get any of that today. But you, listen to me real good. You should be tired of people tickling your ears and leaving out sound doctrine. You should be tired at a time like this, when preachers refuse to match the prophecies with the day-to-day news so that the people will know exactly what is going on and why the Bible and the Quran are messages that all of us should pay attention to. Elijah Muhammad, when we said our prayers together, the Al-Fatiha, which is to the Muslims like the Lord's Prayer is to our Christian family. Today I'm going to weave all the scriptures together, and in that process weave us together as a beautiful garment of many colors, like Joseph's coat, that you may see where we fit and why the universal cry that is intensifying for justice has called God out of his hiding place. Now, Elijah Muhammad would say this prayer: in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise belongs to Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. Yes, sir. But he added something: in which we now live. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's where I'm going today. Yes, sir. Because for religious scholars and leaders to think that the day of judgment is afar off, you're in it right now. And that's why the weather and the meteorologists can't get it right. That's why there's trouble all over the earth, because we are at the end of the time of this world. Dear pastors, listen carefully. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever would believe in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. I cannot allow you to think that God loves this world. Because if you think that way, you'll want to stay in it. You'll see yourself as desirous of being a part of it. My poor brother president, he'll never be able to bring peace, no matter how sincere his heart is. I'm so sorry that he wanted to be Pharaoh in the time of the end of Pharaoh. I'm so sorry that he wanted to be Pharaoh when God has come to put an end to that Egypt which old Egypt was a sign of. God did not love this world. He declared its destruction the day of its inception. Are you hearing it? He gave this world 6 days. And to my Seventh-day Adventist family, in the 7th day, God would come. And you, black man and woman, you think so little of yourself. Though you sing the song, what he did for others, he can do for us. But he hadn't done it yet. And you have rejected the gift of life that he wishes to give to you because you're so in love with your former slave masters and their children. You want to be a part of this. Wrong. The scripture says, come out of her, my people. Babylon is fallen and has become a habitation of devils. Do you really think you're a saint? Let's talk. If we are saints, God helps righteousness. What is a devil? A rebel against God and his way. And not only one who is a transgressor, but leads others into transgression. I just want you to listen. If the seat gets a little hot, I'm not after you. I'm after what's sitting up inside you that makes you an enemy of God and an enemy of yourself. Is Mr. Mike Brown here today? He didn't make it. I see. Okay, I pray that he will see justice. But you know, fear, you won't live to see justice. Scared to death people are scared of the power of the enemy because you're not acquainted with the power of God. God so loved the world. When you use the definite article, you're talking about that world that is the example of worlds and is why this world will not last. God so loved the world that was in his mind that he gave his only begotten son to bring that world into existence, because this one is perishing, and if you love this world, you will go down with it as it's going. That is why
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his servant and messenger. I greet you, my beloved brothers and sisters, in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the ancient tongue of Arabic. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, 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 dear beloved brothers and sisters, family, friends, and regular viewers of the Imagination Show. My name is Brother Leo Muhammad, and sitting alongside me is my beloved sister, best friend, and wife, Sister Claudia Muhammad.
Yeah. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I greet you all in the greeting words of peace, of Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
I pray to
salam.
Allah that you are all safe and well and enjoying the countless blessings from Almighty God Allah, although we're in a very strange time that we're living in, but we just all have to seek refuge in the God, Master Fard Muhammad, our Savior, who has arrived. So, we are a blessed people. As I said, it may not seem like we are, but we are blessed, and God has come for us.
Absolutely. Praise be to Allah. So, dear family, let a family member know, a loved one, a friend, let them know that the Imagination Show is on right now, live and direct. And also, don't forget to hit that like button and also subscribe to the show, because we want to grow the show, develop the show. And also, dear family, let us know where you are on the planet, where you are viewing us from this evening, because we are always interested in learning about your whereabouts. Okay, dear family, without further ado, we want to get right into our program this evening, because we want to share with you the title and what it is that we are dealing with this evening. So, welcome to episode 142 of the Imagination Show. Today is Thursday, August the 8th, 2024, and our title and subject matter today is Western Fear of Genetic Annihilation. I need to say that one more time. Western Fear of Genetic Annihilation. This is a very heavy subject, dear family, and I do pray that Allah will bless myself and Sister Claudia to be able to get through it and to be able to throw some light on it, in order that by the end we will have a greater understanding of what this actually means, because it is essential. If we were listening to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan a few minutes ago, to appreciate that we are living in the end times of a world, not the planet Earth, but of a particular world, and that is the white man's world, the Western world, which has been built on the pain and suffering, the bloodshed of the Black, the brown, the yellow, and the red, the native people of our planet. And their time to rule, their time to dominate is up. And so we are today witnessing the manifestation of their fear, their terror. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was about to begin. It's a shame that we only play 30 minutes of the minister before we start talking ourselves, but in reality, he was about to go into this whole concept of terrorism. And you see, they love to call others terrorists, but in reality, their whole world was built on terrorism and the terrorization, the tyranny of the darker people of this world. And so, dear family, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yes,
Go ahead, sister.
to read the book, Our Savior
Has Arrived,
by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, chapter 44, The Great Day. It says, We are living in a great day of God and man. Allah God now desires to take for himself to reign over the nations of the earth. There are two gods. One God is the God of the evil, and the other God is the God of righteousness and justice. The nature of the two gods is so much different from the other that it makes it impossible for one God to yield to the other God because of their nature. Unrighteousness and injustice have triumphed over the people for the past 6,000 years. The unjust God was not one to give up his place for the God of justice. Well, we cannot blame him, since by nature he was made a God, a ruler. But his time is out and his rule is up. He is now in the time of the other God, the God of righteousness, freedom, justice, and equality. So this is a great day, the passing away of one world and the coming in of another world. We have suffered under the evil that the devil was made for. Up until this very minute, he wants to do all the evil that he can do, regardless to the Bible and the Holy Quran teaching that Allah God will reward him and me for every good act or good work. Everything is being changed from the old to a new thing. We must qualify for the new.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Praise be to Allah.
Thank you, dear beloved sister. And you know, family, this is what we have to appreciate, that the white man is the God of his world.
That's right.
But there is another God. You see, the God of the universe, the God of our people. The God of the universe is the one who comes to take this God, who only had a short time to rule, out now, and to replace that God with his rule. And so, dear family, there is tremendous fear now being generated on our planet, because this Western God, this new man, is terrified. Hence why all you can hear is talk of terrorism.
That's right.
Terrorism. But the talk is not necessarily altogether what it sounds like. We got to go into it a little bit this evening, dear family. I pray that you are all well and that you are ready to share with us that which we want to share with you. So whether we appreciate it or not, we are currently witnessing the cumulative fear of the Western world over their inevitable genetic annihilation because of the rise of indigenous Black, brown, and yellow people all over the world, politically, economically, and militarily, and the fact that white Western rulers are powerless to do anything about it. The ordinary white man on the ground is angry and frustrated because his whole life he was taught whites were superior and would be on top forever and ever. I'm hoping that you are all cognizant and familiar with what's going on right now on the streets of the so-called United Kingdom, with absolute mayhem having broken out and white men running amok and destroying and burning and attacking brown and Black people and the police. And all of this is as a result of this fear, this terror of their genetic annihilation. They can sense that something is coming, that something is happening, and they are trying to ward it off. They're trying to do everything that they can to prevent or to stop the inevitable. But in reality, this which is coming, this which is now being made manifest, is unstoppable, and it is inevitable. So, dear family, on Thursday, the 1st of August, 2024, Sky News reported the following headline: teenager charged with murdering 3 girls in Southport, stabbing attack appears in court. His name is Axel Rudder Cubana, and he lives in a village in Lancashire and was born in Cardiff, Wales. Now, you know, it's important to emphasize that he lives in a village in Lancashire and was born in Cardiff, Wales. This is a young boy. The picture of him is, I think, when he was a lot younger than 17. Those depictions are drawings from when he was supposed to have been in court on Thursday, the 1st of August, sitting and surrounded by these Caucasians. I assume that some of them are all of them are prison guards. One's in uniform behind him, and 2 look like they're wearing civilian clothing. And, you know, this is how they've depicted the young brother. But the point is, dear family, that here is a young black boy who was born in the UK and raised in the UK. And, you know, the rumor went out on the internet and in other places that he was some type of asylum seeker or Muslim or some other crazy stuff that went flying around. And on the basis of these rumors, all of this mayhem began to happen on the streets of Britain, in the town where the young girls were killed, and then spread into other cities and towns and villages all over the country, with these angry white men and boys and girls even coming out and beginning to destroy things because they are angry that this black person, or what they were calling some Muslim or asylum seeker, had killed these 3 white children. Dear family, you know, the amount of black people who have been killed in this world, in this country and in America and other places, and do we turn around and blame all white people for that? Or do we look at the individual who has committed the act, or the individuals who have done it, the individual policeman or the individual civilian who's responsible? But this blaming the entire group or blaming a segment of the society is because, as we have said this evening, a fear that is deep-seated in these people, in this culture, because of what they know about what they've done historically and where we are currently in terms of the unfolding of history. And so this fear is what's driving this mayhem that we are currently witnessing on our planet. And we're talking now about a localized situation of a young black boy. Now, we don't know, dear family, by the way, you know, he's accused. We don't know if it's actual facts that he actually did it. Chances are it's true, but the fact is that what is his mental state? You're talking about a 17-year-old child, effectively. What is it that's driving our youth, not just to kill 3 little white girls, but kill each other wholesale? Because it's now epidemic, the way in which black children, black young people are fratricidally killing one another. So, you know, there's so much shock over this particular incident, but in reality, we should be asking ourselves the question, what's really going on with our young people, and why is it that so many of them now are picking up knives and picking up guns and other instruments of death, and, you know, taking or eating things which are not good for them, or drinking things that are not good for them, ingesting all manner of different types of drugs, which who knows the effect that it's having on the brain, on the young, developing brain of these young people. And so we don't know, dear family, what was the motivation behind it. We don't know what could have driven this young brother to commit such a terrible crime, because it's a terrible crime to kill 3 young children. However, the reaction from those Caucasian men in particular, and boys, and even, you know, the media, which is very complicit in a lot of this activity, the reaction is what it is that we want to focus on, because that reaction is to do with a particular kind of fear, and it is a fear of genetic annihilation. The 17-year-old has now been remanded in youth custody after he was charged with 3 counts of murder, 10 counts of attempted murder, and possession of a knife. He appeared at Liverpool Magistrates Court last Thursday morning. During the 55-minute court hearing, the teenager put his head down inside his grey sweatshirt and at times was seen rocking back and forth and side to side. Sounds to me like a young boy that's got problems. Sounds to me like a young person who, you know, because, you know, when a lot of these mass killings take place and the perpetrator is Caucasian, they're very quick to say mental health.
Yeah.
You see, but invariably with us, it's criminal, it's terrorism, it's wickedness, you know, it's barbaric, and all of the type of language that they are able to conjure up in those circumstances. And so, dear family, this is what we are dealing with this evening. Now, since the knife attack and the killing of the 3 little girls, all hell has broken loose, with so-called far-right groups going on the rampage all over the UK, attacking black and brown people, as well as Muslim mosques and communities, plus asylum seekers housed in hotels, as well as attacks on the police who are attempting to restore order. The predominant chant for those rioting is, "We want our country back," and demands to stop immigration and kick the immigrants out. Go ahead.
I was
Sister
just
Claudia.
thinking, would it have been the same if Rishi Sunak was still Prime Minister?
Oh, yeah, but
You see, that's
but he would have come in for, because as far, you know, you got to understand, I mean, we don't necessarily hear too much about it, but there was a few times when, and in fact, he was complaining bitterly on one occasion near the end of his tenure in number 10, how he'd been called the P word, you know, because Barack Obama was, you know, was the most threatened president in US history.
That's right.
And so it wouldn't have made no difference in the sense that, and again, we got to remember, you know, we got all of these brown faces in government, all of these brown faces, many of them who are in office. And remember that they're there to sit over white supremacy and put a brown or a black face on white supremacy. And for a lot of these angry Englishmen and British, so-called British people, they're angry at them. They see them as being a part of this annihilation. You know, the fact that they have to have an Indian prime minister, come on. That sticks in their craw, because as I said earlier, you know, they were raised all their lives to believe that they were superior.
That's right.
So why is it now you got to have a prime minister who's Asian, or now with Labour in power, you've got a foreign minister who is black.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? So make no mistake about it, they're as angry as hell. And that's not just the foot soldiers who are burning and looting, but even a lot of these other elite types, their understanding is that, you know, they're wondering why are we so decrepit now? Why are we so useless that all of these so-called immigrants or blacks or foreigners have got to be the ones who are, let's go to the scripture. You see, Joseph rose from being a slave into the highest office of the land, you see, and you know, a lot of our people, we like to look back on these scriptures as if it's history, not realizing that the scripture is talking about today. And so those who were enslaved, those who were, as the minister said earlier, despised and rejected. I think the scripture says it like this: the stone that was rejected will become the head cornerstone of the building. And so this is what we're looking at,
it's like
dear family.
they've been let loose now that they haven't got a brown person in, they can go to town now.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that they would have done it
either way.
Yeah, regardless. They probably would have done it more if there was a so-called brown person in there. And you know, it's really, really important to appreciate that this has been driven by it's got nothing to do with those three girls. We live in a country where little girls are murdered every day.
But it's the time.
Right.
It's the time that we're living in.
Right. And little girls go missing every day and then show up days or weeks later in a ditch somewhere, raped, murdered, mutilated. This is the reality of this country. So these, if there are any tears from these rioters and these terrorists on the roadside, it's crocodile tears. It's an excuse for something else that's eating away at them. Hence why, you know, this chant, we want our country back. You see?
Or is it a wake-up call?
Well, it should be a wake-up call for us.
That's what I mean, for us.
It should definitely be a wake-up call for us, because unfortunately, Sister Claudia, you look at our behavior, so many of us as Black people, we're so comfortable. And we really think that we've arrived, and we really think that now we're living in a post-racial world and that we've been accepted. No, dear family, the reality is that these racist sentiments, these racist attitudes are very, very prevalent, and they're just under the surface. So all you have to do is just scratch that white man and you will see the real thing come out. And again, we're talking about it in the localized area right here, right now in the UK. But again, I've got to tell you the truth. See, when you look at Palestine, when you look at what's happening in, you know, other parts of the world, it is the same thing. It is a manifestation of a people who are desperate to remain in the upper place, to remain in power over Black, brown, yellow, and they will do almost anything to maintain what they believe to be the status quo. Hence why you see the type of slaughter that's taking place of indigenous people in different parts of the world. And the Western media and Western politicians and Western institutions, they got nothing to say about it. And whatever they do say about it, it's lip service, it's platitudes, but it's got nothing to do with actually resolving the issue. There is confusion in the ranks of the white world, and they're lashing out left, right, and center in the only way they know how, which is with individual and collective violence against vulnerable targets unable to effectively defend themselves, which gives the attackers a feeling of encouragement that they are fighting for their very existence and way of life against an enemy who rarely fights back. Dear family, I don't know if you can remember, it was only about 3 months ago that this happened. You know, literally 3 months ago, a white man fatally killed a young black boy with a sword. Did the whole of the UK erupt into riots because of this? Why not? Because we understand that this one white man does not represent all white people. Some are good, some are bad, just like every human race. So why TF, why the F are those idiots rioting right now? And for what? For the actions of a boy who was not a refugee, not an immigrant, not a Muslim. And even if he was any of those, can you not get it through your thick heads that the actions of one individual does not represent a whole community, race, religion, culture? Grow up. I don't know who wrote that, but I think it's a very good way of encapsulating the whole idiotic behavior and attitude that we can see being made manifest on the streets of Britain right now. But it's part of a feeling that's running through the white world where anything that happens that has a black face on it, it brings out this attitude.
What's within.
Yes, and this mentality, because it's deep-seated.
That's right.
And we're going to see it more and more and more and more. Now, then a couple of weeks ago, there was the Manchester airport police incident where a police firearms officer was caught on camera kicking and stomping the head of a young Pakistani individual who had already been tased with around 50,000 volts and was lying prone on the floor and was in no way a threat to anyone. By the way, during that incident, they also smashed the mother in her face with the taser, cutting her under her eye, leaving her with severe bruising. And, you know, this little segment here from one of the news outlets in the UK was seeking now to, because a video was released of the policeman kicking the boy in his head whilst he was laying prone on the floor. But then another video was released and they were saying, oh, well, you see, this first video shows you now what happened before, and trying to justify this is what these so-called newsreaders, not all of them, I think the woman was still trying to argue a little bit to say, well, nothing justifies what we saw the policeman doing. And the men here, they were, you know, having to really agree that, well, it was outrageous what the policeman did. However, you know, this first video now kind of like gives a context to, this is the word they were using, context to what happened. But in reality, dear family, if you watch the video carefully, so you will see that, and you see the police, when they approach somebody, they're supposed to go up to the person and speak to the person. Only if that person becomes violent or poses some type of threat should a police officer be putting their hands on you before they've even ascertained anything from you. But if you watch the video carefully, you see they go straight up to this guy, grab him by the wrist, and immediately slam his head into the machine where he was paying, I believe, paying for parking. So observe it, family, and then we'll come back.
Can we move on to the Mail on Sunday, and we're leading on it today, Emma? This additional footage. It's certainly not all the footage. There's more footage to come out, but it puts that first video about the incident in Manchester Airport into much more context and shows just what a vicious attack those police officers were facing.
It does exactly that, though. I don't think, Stephen, that we've still got the full picture, because it still feels like one clip and another clip. And if you put them the other way around, it would be a completely different picture. But we do now have, this was the incident on Tuesday night. It's created basically a political storm, a policing storm. It's a real mess, and a lot of more division movement on the right and the left saying this, that, people making allegations of racism, which, as far as I can see, are completely unfounded. This new footage that has emerged and has been all over social media all yesterday and overnight, showing the 19-year-old Amas,
who's the one who's kicked in the head in the
who was the one who was kicked and then stamped on the head.
The blue you can see on your screens now.
Actually perpetrating quite, I would say, a vicious attack, quite out of control attack on 3 officers before the other police officer retaliates, which he shouldn't have done. Let's all be, everybody has been clear that a firearms officer should not ever be as out of control as that to sort of hit back in that way. But I think we can now understand the context and the human feelings. You've just seen his colleagues.
Well, it's not even that, because if you look at that footage,
See, those Asians, they had the audacity to fight back and to defend themselves. Again, I think they're going to show it again. The police come straight up, grab the boy and slam him into the machine. And then the Asian boys, the 2 brothers, started to fight them and was actually beating them physically. And it was that they were so angry, the audacity that you would fight back against me, an armed policeman. Hence now you're getting kicked in the head after you've been tasered. If you watch the way the boy falls, when he's behind the policeman holding him, then another policeman tases him from behind. He falls absolutely, stunned. And then this other guy rushes over and kicks him in the face and then stomps on his head.
The officer involved does appear to have just been battered before that lad was tasered.
Agreed. But once someone is restrained, you're not then meant to go back in and go for a kick and a stamp, are you?
No, well,
on a human level, you can completely understand.
Yeah, 2 things can exist in the same space. One is absolutely alarming to see a firearms officer lose his cool and kick somebody in the head. But also, as you see in that footage, this is an individual who's committed multiple acts of violence in one spree. We're talking about fighting in an airport as well, where we've got a high security situation. I mean, in many ways, if this happened in another country, you'd have been shot dead for attacking multiple firearms officers. And we're in this position where we had hundreds of people out in the streets. It was a broadly peaceful protest, but it got very, very heated. People discussing racism against Greater Manchester Police. And this is exactly the same police force that a few months ago were found to have turned a blind eye to the rape cases in Rochdale. And it just simply doesn't hold water that this is a racist incident. And again, you see the picture is far more murky than we see.
There's no evidence from what we've seen and what we've heard that it's a racist incident. We don't know that.
But I think it's quite right that this.
And they're always quick to try to deny the racism. Because again, dear family, I've watched enough police stop videos to see how they deal with white people as opposed to how they deal with Black or Asian or other people of color. And it is a completely different attitude. The amount of times I've watched white guys getting stopped by the police, swearing, cussing them, calling all manner of things. And the police are just so patient. So, they take their time, whatever. But when it comes to us as a people, no. There's no such tolerance. There's no such patience. It's immediately hands-on and it's going to turn violent. Go ahead.
Well, that's how it was in I'm not sure if it was Heathrow Airport, where those frackers were spray painting the airport.
Yeah, you're talking about the Just Stop Oil.
Yes,
Stop Oil, yeah.
I said, if that was a Black person, from the time you lifted your arms up to spray, you're down. But they sprayed everywhere, and then they sat down and nobody approached
them. Exactly.
The racism.
That's right. It's a very Caucasian. There's a little thing at the end of this segment which is unrelated, but I'm going to touch on it when we get there as well.
On just something like this, the incident and the officer needs to be investigated.
Yeah,
that's fine. But then suddenly it's suspension, and then we're opening a criminal investigation on the basis of what?
Andy Burnham said his thoughts to the family at this difficult time. And I sort of think, well, obviously it's very distressing, but my thoughts are also with the female police officer who had her nose broken. I feel like there's this, the natural thing, and I understand where it comes from, is to take the heat out of the situation and be defensive towards the public. But also, and again, I don't condone what this officer's clearly, we see him doing on the tape, but this is clearly a very heated situation. This is a situation where somebody's attacked multiple police officers. And we're treating somebody like that as a victim.
I think you've got, everybody's reacting on an emotional level. We're not reacting to facts because we don't know all the facts.
We don't have it all, do we?
No.
It still feels like, you know, it doesn't feel like we've got
Too emotive. And as a journalist, it's like, I want to know all the facts. I want to know exactly what happened, in what order it happened, and stop people overreacting on the, you know, as you say, Andy Burnham saying thoughts with the family. And it's like, well, it's like someone's died. I mean, that's not the case. No. Stop using the emotional rhetoric so much. Let's know what.
Yeah, and that's the only time that you're supposed to react in an emotional way. No, the mother was slapped or hit in the face with a taser. The son was kicked in the head and then stomped in the head. I mean, you know, and the mayor is not allowed to say, my thoughts are with the family. You see, because there is to be no sympathy for these people, because just like you can have over 40,000, I mean, and that's a conservative estimate, because according to Lancet, the British medical publication, they're estimating that over 186,000 Palestinians may have been killed thus far. And so we can have that type of statistic and nobody is supposed to feel anything. And in that number, over 16,000 children, okay, many of them babies, and we're not supposed to grieve or feel pain. But when it comes to their suffering or their pain, then everybody is supposed to automatically switch gear and become very, very sympathetic to whatever it is that they're grieving and paining over.
What happened and why it happened.
But also it feels very political. It feels like immediately people took sides.
Yeah, of course.
Based on very little information that we actually had at that time. But, you know, Galloway tweeting the original video clip and all of this, and people sort of weaponizing it.
Yeah, not weaponizing. The people saw a policeman kick a man full in the face with his boots and then stomp on his head whilst he was laying prone on the floor. That's it. Okay, that's what people saw. And regardless of what happened before, you see at the time when he did that, that man was posing no threat whatsoever, which shows you the type of brutality. And by the way, again, this is what Palestinians experience every single minute of every day at the hands of the so-called IDF and Israeli military and police in that country. This is what happens.
And that's what we experience as Black people.
Yeah.
You get stopped for not wearing a seatbelt in America, and then you end up dead.
Dead, exactly.
You call the police because you believe there's someone in your home, and you end up dead.
That's right. You end up getting shot in the face as a woman in your house. And remember that a lot of these police forces, where they've been trained from? Israel.
That's right.
All right. So it's the same paramilitary mentality. Even when you look at the police now, they're not even like civilian. They're not necessarily, they don't dress as if they're really there to deal with civilians. They look like soldiers. It's like a military, a paramilitary outfit that's coming now and dealing with the people with all of these weapons at their disposal. And so this is the reality, dear family, of what we face in the United Kingdom. Because again, and this is for all of my brothers and sisters in North America, you know, because many of you still got this little idea, this quaint British, you know, where the police don't carry guns and stop it, please, stop it. Stop believing all the nonsense that you get in mainstream media. The police here are as armed as anywhere else. They're just very, very clever in the way in which they portray a particular image. And go back and watch your black and white movies about Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes, when he was ready to get a gun, he could get a gun. All right? So just don't think this notion that, oh, they just carry a little stick and a whistle. You know, when I hear these things, sometimes I have to laugh because people are so foolish when they think that, you know, the police in the UK are unarmed. They're not unarmed. When they're ready to bring out their arms, they bring out their arms, okay? And invariably, it's people who look like me and who are getting shot.
Yeah.
This is what happens when everyone is a cameraman now. Everyone has got video for absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And immediately, whether it's in any case of police brutality, any case like this, the lines are immediately drawn the moment you see those videos.
That was a little bit of a slip. Police brutality. See, because he knows what he's talking about. He's admitting it. It slipped out. He understands that it's police brutality, and this is not new. This is not something that, you know, this is some incident that's out of the blue kind of thing. No, this is police brutality is a reality, not just in North America, but it's right here in the UK, and it's been like that. In the 70s, my God, when we were young in the 70s and the early 80s, we couldn't hardly walk the streets as young black boys without getting picked up and falsely accused and actually framed by the police in order to give us criminal convictions that when we matured and got older, then we wouldn't be able to get mortgages, we wouldn't be able to deal with banks and all kinds of, I mean, man, if you knew the wickedness of these people and what they do whilst pretending to be genteel, pretending to be, you know, these English gentlemen.
It's not that clear cut. We've just got 30 seconds, Andy. The Mail on Sunday. I noticed this last night. On the Olympic YouTube channel, you can't see the opening ceremony.
I wonder why.
Just a quick aside. I just thought I'd mention that. You know, I never even watched it. I haven't watched any of the Olympics. I saw a little clip of the 100 meters the other day, but I'm really not interested in this white man's sport and play system and world anymore. But I heard a lot about this opening ceremony and how debauched it was, how disgusting it was. And I've seen some images, some pictures, and even about this guy having his testicles hanging out in the public at the opening ceremony. Yeah, this is for real. And they mention it in a second. You'll hear and listen to the way they talk about it though. And, you know, trans people, and they were basically mocking the Last Supper. You know, some big sort of fat woman playing Jesus and all this kind of stuff, and a lot of cavorting and gyrating around, mocking Christianity effectively. But now apparently, when you go on the Olympic website, they've removed it because there was so much uproar. But it's like they put these things out to test the climate, to see what the people are gonna stomach, because we're living in a satanic world. It's just important for you to appreciate that. This is an anti-God, anti-Christ world. They don't like Christ, okay? They don't like God. They don't want nothing to do with righteousness. They want to bring everybody into a pit of hell and filth. This is what it's about. And slowly but surely, they push and push the envelope each time just to see what the reaction will be, how people will respond. And evidently, this response was a little bit too much, so they've removed the video. But enough people recorded it and have kept it. So I'm sure it's available in places. And also there are images, still images of what took place. But listen to what they say here.
We've just got 30 seconds, Andy. The Mail on Sunday. I noticed this last night. On the Olympic YouTube channel, you can't see the opening ceremony.
I wonder why.
The official YouTube channel has quietly removed the opening ceremony from the other day, from Friday night. I can't remember what day of the week it is, because of a lot of backlash about how they portrayed Christianity, at the Last Supper. There was a bit of a wardrobe malfunction with one of the male dancers.
Deliberate malfunction. That one.
I have no idea about I won't speculate. But yeah, was very controversial, and YouTube have removed it.
And drag queens and deeply kind of inappropriate family viewing and sexualization and the mockery of Christianity.
Very odd. Emma, Andy, we've got to leave it there. Thank you.
Dear family, this is the world in which we live. This is the reality of what is going on in the world today. Family, the Balfour Declaration was a public statement issued by the British government in November of 1917 during the First World War, beginning the establishment of the Zionist state of Israel, which was masquerading as a national home for Jewish people. But in reality, it was a geopolitical and military outpost for British, American, and Western interests in the Middle East to destabilize and maintain control by the West in that region. But don't take it from me, dear family. Let Joe Biden break it down for you, okay? Remember what I just said. Please understand what I'm saying. I'm going to say it all again. I'm going to read it all again. The Balfour Declaration was a public statement issued by the British government in November of 1917 during the First World War, beginning the establishment of the Zionist state. This is not even, wasn't some religious state. It wasn't a genuine Jewish state, but it was a Zionist state of Israel, masquerading, pretending as a national home for Jewish people. But in reality, it was a geopolitical and military outpost for British, American, and Western interests in the Middle East, designed to destabilize and maintain control in that region. But don't take it from me. Let Joe Biden break it down for you.
It's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region.
Think about that. Were there not an Israel, the United States would have to invent one to protect their interest in the Middle East. See, this is a conspiracy of the West, having that outpost in that region to create destabilization and absolute mayhem since 1948, and before that, because remember, Balfour Declaration was 1917, and there was a gradual buildup to 1948 when the State of Israel was announced, okay? But since that time, over 75 years ago, nearly 100 years in reality now, that region has been in absolute turmoil as a result of what these European Jews, because see, a lot of people don't know that before the European Jews came and began to settle, began to colonize, began to displace the indigenous Palestinians and push them out as a reality from that region. Jews, I mean, real Jews who lived alongside Muslims and Christians in that region, they got on very, very well. There was no issue, okay? There was no anti-Semitism. It never existed. Anti-Semitism is a uniquely European phenomenon. And the real anti-Semites are still in Europe, still in North America, still among these Westerners, but not, you can't find it among the Palestinians, who, by the way, are Semitic people themselves. You see? So I don't know how you're going to call a Semitic person an anti-Semite when in reality they are Semites themselves. And so, you know, you got to listen to Joe, because Joe has a habit of telling the truth. And back in the day, like when he was talking here, he was just being upfront about the reality, and he's never changed. He's never changed. That's why he is now Genocide Joe, because he has been supplying the Israelis in 2024 with all of the weapons and the destructive force to carry out this genocide, this ethnic cleansing, this destruction of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, and also the so-called settlers who are killing Palestinians like it's going out of fashion, burning their houses, burning down their olive groves, and basically trying to annex and take over the West Bank. This is the reality, dear family, of what's taking place. And Joe Biden really makes it abundantly clear what the motivation is and who is behind it, who supports Israel, who keeps them in place, and why they are there.
Have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel. Second part is people should understand by now, this should be crystal clear, that Israel is the single greatest strength America has in the Middle East. I always say to my friends when they say those things to you, I say, imagine our circumstance in the world were there no Israel. How many battleships would there be? How many troops would be stationed? You know, I used to say early on when I was a kid, I'd say when I was a young senator, I'd say, if I were a Jew, I'd be a Zionist. I am a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. Progress occurs in the Middle East when everyone knows there's simply no space between the United States and Israel. There is no space.
And understand, I hope you heard what he said. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. And remember what the scripture says. They say they are Jews, but they are not. And I will, God talking, and I will make them of the synagogue of Satan. Okay? See, Jewish people, genuine Jews, they're our brothers and sisters. Genuine Christians, that's our brothers and sisters. Genuine Muslims, that's our brothers and sisters. We are all people of the book. We're all people of faith. We're all people who are believers in God. But people, the Zionists, they don't even believe in God, dear family. This is a political construct designed to go into that area, colonize that place, displace the indigenous people, and steal the land. This is what happened to the Native Americans in North America. This is what happened to the Aborigines in Australia and New Zealand. This is what the Western world has done all over the globe, brothers and sisters. And as I said before, I say it again, the only difference between then and now is that now you are looking at the genocide, the displacement, the thievery, the robbery, the murder live stream. You can see it on your phone. That's the difference. That's the difference, brothers and sisters. Let's listen to Joe confess the truth in his little conspiratorial little talk with this reporter. He seems so pleased with himself, explaining, and the arrogance and the hubris of him as he explains, you know, their power and this wonderful opportunity that they have created for themselves by having these people stationed like an aircraft carrier in and of itself, right smack in the Middle East.
Progress occurs in the Middle East when everyone knows there's simply no space between the United States and Israel. There is no space between the United States and Israel when it comes to Israel's security.
And you know what makes me laugh? It's like over the years, and I've listened to so many Arabs and others who they're looking to America to be an honest broker. Even now, they expect America to broker some type of peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. This man is making it abundantly clear. America and Israel are one. There's no separation. Joe Biden is very clear. They are one. Okay? You know, people, oh, if Donald Trump comes to power, oh my God, what's going to happen to the Palestinians? And he's going to be so much worse. You can't get no worse than Joe Biden. Okay? Him and Trump, when it comes to Israel, it's, how did George Galloway describe Sunak and Starmer? Two cheeks of the same backside. Okay? That's what you're looking at. So all of this fear mongering about Trump as if, oh, he's going to do something that this one hasn't done already. This one has presided over the death of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians and has not batted an eyelid and just keeps pumping in the weapons, okay? Keeps pumping in the money. And he's proud of it, okay? Because remember, these are not classified as white people. And let me just say this to my Palestinian brothers and sisters, because, you know, we love you and we know that you're victims and you've been victimized for a long, long time by this imposition on your land and on your people. And you have paid a heavy, heavy price. But let me say this to the Palestinians and to some of these other Arabs, friends of ours and brothers and sisters of ours. See, part of your problem as well is that you have fallen for the concept, this fake notion of white supremacy. And many of you think you're white, you see, but you're discovering now that this white man don't see you as white. He don't see you like he sees himself. And your life is has no value to him. You see, and part of your problem is that you think you're white, and as a result, many of you do evil. Many of you have done evil and do evil to Black people who are your genuine brothers and sisters. And so you need to wake up from that false notion that you are going to be accepted and embraced by the white Western man, because it's not going to happen. He don't see you like that. Your complexion may be close, but as far as he's concerned, you are nothing. Nothing whatsoever. And that's why he can kill you with impunity. Your women, your children, doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter how young you are, doesn't matter whether you are a political representative, doesn't matter. You're fair game. Doesn't matter where you are, in your bed, in the house, you know, outside in the street. Doesn't matter if you're in somebody else's country as a guest. He will kill you with impunity. Wake up, Palestinians, because part of your problem, and it's not just you, a lot of Black people have bought into white supremacy, you see, but you got to get away from it. Some of us who are Black and we got a little bit, we're light skinned and we think we can pass and we think they're going to accept us. Stop it. You better come home and be with your real family, because these people are white supremacists and they hate anything and anyone who is not manifesting that type of coloration. Isn't that sick? Think about that.
Israel. There is no space between the United States and Israel when it comes to Israel's security. There is only one nation in the world that has unequivocally, without hesitation, and consistently confronted the efforts to delegitimize Israel. At every point in our administration, at every juncture, we stood up on the legitimacy, on behalf of legitimacy of the state of Israel. The security of it.
He's making it abundantly clear that they are the #1 backers of Israel. Nothing, I think the language they've been using recently is their support is ironclad. Think about that, okay? There is no space, not a hair's breadth between them and the genocidal, maniacal regime.
The security of Israel and the United States is inextricably tied. And we will never, ever, ever abandon Israel out of our own self-interest. I also emphasize what I've said throughout this conflict. The United States fully supports Israel's right to defend itself against indiscriminate rocket attacks from Hamas and other Gaza-based terrorist groups that have taken the lives of innocent civilians in Israel.
The only innocent civilians are those in Israel. Understand this. If you listen to some of the government officials and the president and others in Israel, there are no innocents in Gaza. There are no innocents among the Palestinians. Everyone is fair game. Dear family, just have a quick look at this. Just have a look at the before and after of parts of Gaza. This is the level of destruction. This video doesn't really even do it justice, to be honest with you, but this is before and after. Look at the level of destruction that has been wreaked on this place, where the whole idea is to destroy all of the infrastructure, okay, in order that these people don't have anywhere to return to, don't have anywhere to live. These before and after images of Gaza are representative of Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, Vietnam, and so many more nations and peoples who have been overrun, destroyed, and made unrecognizable by the Western powers, including what has been done to Africa and African peoples. These actions are for them to preserve their rule and to stop our rise. This is what they do, okay? They wreck other people's places in order to keep the people in a underdeveloped state. And then they can point to the underdevelopment and say, look, these people can't govern themselves. These people are backward. These people are not as sophisticated and advanced as we are. Why? Because you spend so much time going around the world bombing and destroying other people's infrastructures and other people's abilities to develop, that this is what happens, okay? You know, Iraq, man, if you could have seen Iraq before the bombs fell in 2003, Iraq was a very beautiful place, thriving. And by the way, got history, man. This is Mesopotamia in the Bible, in the scriptures. And this is the place that they absolutely leveled. Some cities they just leveled, they just destroyed. Libya, one of the most successful and richest countries on the African continent under Muammar Gaddafi. Libya is now like a basket case, you see, because this is what they do. And this is part of the plan for Gaza now, is to, I think even they say it themselves, they said it about Vietnam, they want to bring it back to the Stone Age. This is what they do. And then they companies like BlackRock and others then get the contracts to go and rebuild the country, making them a lot of money for themselves. This is what they do. We're talking today about the Western fear of genetic annihilation. Dear family, since October the 7th, 2023, the Palestinian people of Gaza and the West Bank have been screaming under a genocidal onslaught conducted by the IDF and Israeli illegal settlers, including starvation, devastation of all civilian infrastructure, displacement of over 2 million people, destruction of medical facilities, and denial of their basic humanity, all fully backed by America, Britain, and the other Western governments, supplying those committing the slaughter with political and media cover, money and weapons. This is what's going on. This is what we're witnessing, okay? This is not some incidental, accidental thing that's taking place here. This is systematic Western powers backing a genocide and a destruction of a whole people for their own self-interest. And what is that interest? It is fear. It is fear, dear family. White supremacy has become so insidious. I want you to hear what we're saying. It has become so insidious that the white man no longer needs to be present for his wicked agenda to be carried into practice by those miseducated into his way of thinking and his way of life, and those corrupted by greed, lust, and power, and those who have been bribed, bought, and paid for. This is the reality, dear family. So much of what he does today is via remote control because he's got his puppets in place all over the world.
Around 1 million people have been forced from their homes since the M23 armed group, backed by Rwanda, resumed its uprising just over 2 years ago. The fighting's escalated in recent weeks as M23's fighters have closed in on the provincial capital of Goma. Dozens of people have been injured and killed.
The M23 rebels dropped bombs on the civilian population. Many of us were wounded. We don't have problems with them. They should rather take it up with the military.
M23, the government forces, and the armed groups they support have all been accused of atrocities. It's the latest round of a conflict that began in the 1990s.
You notice how these African soldiers can have all these weapons, you know, by the way, which we don't make. You see where all these weapons coming from in these so-called, these terrorist groups who are keeping the Congo, which is what we're looking at now, destabilized and absolutely the population's terrified and unable to live normal lives so that, again, the country can be developed. A country which is one of the richest countries on the planet, if not the richest in terms of its mineral resources. But this is a place that is absolutely just destabilized by the West.
Rwanda and Uganda invaded Congo. That prompted 2 wars that drew in around 12 African countries and killed an estimated 6 million people. Eastern Congo's been on...
I know you didn't hear that, so I'm going to play it again, you see, because, you know, we're feeling tremendous pain for our Palestinian brothers and sisters and their little children who have not had a chance to even live, who are now slaughtered. But understand this, what is happening in the Congo makes what is happening there pale into some almost insignificance. It's not insignificant, but understand the numbers of Africans who are being slaughtered in order to maintain the West's domination of resources on the African continent. I just want you to listen to the numbers that we're talking about here. When this video began, they talked about 1 million people being displaced, but listen to what the commentator says.
12 African countries and killed an estimated 6 million people. Eastern Congo's been unstable ever since, and at the center of it are Congo's minerals, such as coltan, which is used in almost all electronics. Whoever controls...
You know, who's dominating the field and the marketplace when it comes to all of these electronic devices that, you know, every minute they want you to upgrade your phone, upgrade your computer, do this, do that. But it's a marketplace that's spinning hundreds of billions of dollars around the world, but the raw materials are coming out of the Congo. And I can assure you that these Africans are not benefiting from what they're digging out. All they're receiving is death and destruction and poverty, whilst others rape their country. Family, I hope you're listening.
Congo's minerals, such as coltan, which is used in almost all electronics. Whoever controls the mines and the trade routes can earn vast profits. Foreign forces continue to play their part. The 25-year UN peacekeeping mission has been criticized for failing to protect civilians.
Peacekeeping colleagues tell us that in the DRC, they remain deeply concerned.
Hold on, because I know we missed that bit as well. You shouldn't miss it, dear family. You should listen to what they're saying. See, these peacekeepers have been there 25 years. Why is there no peace? Why are the terrorist groups growing in strength? Why? Because they are the ones who are keeping the terrorists in place, supplying the so-called terrorist weapons, paying their salaries, allowing them to keep the country messed up. It's been shown over and over again so many times. The UN troops, many of them raping African women and doing all kinds of evil. A drone recently they discovered was full of gold being smuggled out of the country, controlled by United Nations troops. So understand that this is one massive scam that's been played on the Africans, and the sooner these people get chucked out of our continent, the better.
Peacekeeping mission has been criticized for failing to protect civilians.
Peacekeeping colleagues tell us that in the DRC, they remain deeply concerned by the renewed escalation of hostilities in the eastern part of the country. They reiterate their call for the M23 group to cease its offensive and to respect the Luanda roadmap.
The UN peacekeepers have started withdrawing on the request of Congo's government, whose own forces have also failed to protect civilians and...
Not a request. The Congo government told them to get out. But they can say, get out, get out, get out. These people never go. They always find a way to stay in the country because they need to be there to make sure that the resources are coming out into the West.
Stop M23's advances. The latest foreign troops to arrive are from South Africa, Malawi and Tanzania, who've been fighting M23 alongside the government. On Saturday, the US said Rwanda should withdraw its troops and surface-to-air missiles from Congo. Rwanda has said its national security is threatened.
And remember, Rwanda is where Britain is talking about sending so-called asylum seekers. Okay? They're all in cahoots. All right? They're giving the Rwandan government money to take their asylum seekers, which the Labour Party has now scrapped that scheme anyway, which was just a big joke. But they want to send people to Rwanda from Britain that they don't want, and all of these people are coming across the Atlantic Ocean and coming across the seas because of all of the mayhem that the West has created in Africa, in the Middle East, and in other parts of the world by destroying Libya, destroying parts of Syria. The people are coming here, you see, and then they've got a refugee crisis that now making the white man on the ground angry. Oh man. You see, the white man's always upset over the fact that he's got immigrants wanting to come here. But what he fails to realize and remember is that he was the one who went to these countries in the first place as an immigrant, as an illegal immigrant, and basically destroyed those cultures. And you see, you know, I think when we was growing up, there was a saying, you know, like it takes one to know one. And a lot of what we hear, the talk about immigrants and the danger of immigration and too many immigrants and so on and so forth, it's because, see, the white man knows what he has done and what he does when he goes into other people's countries. And so he projects his own mentality and behavior on people who are coming here. Because, you know, he can't think that anybody would come and actually have good intentions for the country. But because if it wasn't for the so-called immigrants in this country, they wouldn't have no NHS. And they wouldn't have no national health service. They wouldn't have all of these ancillary workers and people working their buses and driving their tube trains and driving their Uber cars and all the rest of it. It's foreigners, it's immigrants who keep the whole system flowing. Most of these angry white men who are throwing bottles and attacking the police and attacking mosques, and they don't even want to work. Most of them are on the dole, not interested in working, because again, they've been bred to have even though they're many of them are ignorant fools, they've been bred to believe that they're superior to other people, especially if those other people are black skin or brown skin or yellow skin, you see? And so this is the quagmire that the Caucasian has got himself into. He thinks that everybody thinks and acts like him, when in reality, he's, this is what makes him afraid, terrified, because he knows what he does when he goes into other people's countries, and he thinks that everybody else is going to do the same when they come here. But we're not like you. We don't think like you. We don't act like you. We're not destructive and wicked like you.
Tiles from Congo, Rwanda has said its national security is threatened. Hundreds of thousands of people in the displacement camps and millions more in the city of Goma are waiting to find out if the decades-long conflict is about to get worse once again. Malcolm Webb, Al Jazeera.
Dear family, I hope you are good. I hope you are following this, because it's really important, as I said before, that we do know what's going on, what's taking place. Since 1996, the Western manufactured conflict in eastern DRC Congo has led to approximately 6 million deaths. The first Congo War, 1996 and 1997, began in the wake of the 1994 Rwanda genocide, also instigated from the West, during which so-called ethnic Hutu extremists killed an estimated 1 million minority ethnic Tutsis and so-called moderate Hutus in Rwanda, the DRC's neighbor to the east. Why do we know nothing about 6 million dead Africans, mostly women and children? Why is Africa so militarized against itself? The reason why we don't know, family, is because the media is not a media for giving news to the public. It's a propaganda arm
about control
of Western powers. That's how the mainstream media actually works. Dear family, the scramble to exploit the Democratic Republic of the Congo's vast natural resources has been the principal driver of atrocities and conflict throughout Congo's tortured history. In Eastern Congo today, resources are financing multiple armed groups that target the local populations. As long as they're targeting the local population, you see, in that local population, man, you got the doctors, the nurses, the engineers. They're genius people who, if they could just live in a peaceful environment, man, the creative genius that's there. But the people are constantly, if you see the image, the people are constantly being displaced, constantly on the move, carrying what little belongings they can scramble because of these constant attacks against the population. Despite the presence of so-called United Nations peacekeepers, French, American, British, and other military interventions, rebel and terrorist groups proliferate. And the flow of the DRC Congo mineral resources continue out of the country into the hands of Western multinational companies, unabated and with little benefit to the indigenous African people. This is the reality of what we're looking at. That's why I love Ibrahim Traoré, because, man, here you got an African leader in Burkina Faso finally realizing the game that's been played and basically saying to the European, get out, and we're going to take charge of our own reality, and we're going to arm ourselves, and we're willing to fight to deal with you and get you away from us once and for all. Dear family, Our great and powerful sister, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, was born on March 18, 1935, and returned to Allah and the ancestors on January the 2nd, 2016. According to Wikipedia, she was an American psychiatrist and well-known proponent of the Black supremacist melanin theory. That is a complete misrepresentation. She never promoted no Black supremacist melanin theory. But this is how they, you read Wikipedia, they tell some truth about when she was born, who she was, whatever, but then they're throwing that, and you know, for those of us who are foolish and think that everything that we read is the truth, then, you know, we're already poisoned thinking that the sister was pushing Black supremacy. It's a complete misrepresentation. She actually produced two seminal works, The Cress Theory of Color Confrontation and Racism, White Supremacy, and the ISIS Papers, The Keys to the Colors. And I would encourage you, dear family, to get those books, man, and study them, because they are absolutely awesome in their scholarship and in the level of breakdown that she gives of this mentality of white supremacy and how that breeds this fear of white genetic annihilation. Please get those books. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing has postulated that racism, white supremacy, is the local and global power system dynamic structured and maintained by those who classify themselves as white, whether consciously or subconsciously determined. This system consists of patterns of perception, logic, symbol formation, thought, speech, action, and emotional response as conducted simultaneously in all areas of people activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Understand that this mentality of white supremacy permeates every facet of their being, every facet of every system, every institution that they have erected. This is not no lightweight thing, brothers and sisters. And we've got to stop, you know, thinking that, oh, all we got to do is just change a couple of hearts and minds, and then we're all going to live happily ever after, and we're all going to be singing Kumbaya together. It just don't work like that. You're dealing with a completely different character, a completely different nature when you are dealing with these people. Sister Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, in continuing her statement, she states the following: the ultimate purpose of the system, white supremacy, is to ensure white genetic survival and to prevent white genetic annihilation on Earth, a planet in which the overwhelming majority of people are classified as non-white, black, brown, red, and yellow by white-skinned people. All the non-white people are genetically dominant in terms of skin coloration. This isn't racism. This is actual facts, okay? This is the reality, that black skin is dominant and compared to the genetic recessive white-skinned people. And this is something that they know, hence why black is very threatening. Hence why there is this genocidal mentality towards black people, and they will kill us at the drop of a hat. Dear family, I pray that you really was able to follow all of that. And I just wanted to do a little bit more reading just to explain to you in a more kind of scientific way as well, from, you know, many Caucasian authors and those who study in the field of demography. According to what the demographers are saying, by the way, demographers are scientists of population growth, population movement. They study populations and how populations are configured. According to what the demographers are saying, in 2013. This is just a little of what they had to say about the UK and white demographic decline globally. In 2013, Demos published research analyzing the 2011 United Kingdom census. The UK-based think tank detailed how departing white British are replaced by immigration or by the natural growth of the minority population. Over time, the end result of this process is a spiral of white British demographic decline. I want you to understand what we're talking about here, what they are talking about, what they recognize, and what many of these white people who are so angry today that they are burning down their own cities and attacking black, brown, and yellow people, it is because they have some notion of what these academics are talking about here. Demographer David Coleman has produced studies which predict that the cities of Leicester and Birmingham, these are two cities in the UK, that the cities of Leicester and Birmingham will join London in their majority minority status during the 2020s with regard to the demographic decline of white people in Britain. Coleman estimates that by 2056, the trend of a decline in share of the white populace will result in the United Kingdom having an overall white minority. This is what the demographers are predicting. By 2056, Britain is, white people will be a minority in Britain. It goes on. White stroke European Canadians, this is now looking at other parts of the white world. White stroke European Canadians, remember, Canada don't belong to white people. The indigenous people were wiped out, okay? White stroke European Canadians from 2001 to 2016. In 2018, scholars Eric Kaufman and Matthew Goodwin wrote that the demographic process would result in white Canadians being in the minority by around 2050. This is global trends going on here, dear family. White Americans of one race or alone from 1960 to 2020, some changes may be due to change in self-identification patterns rather than demographic changes. While non-Hispanic white Americans under 18 in the US are already a minority, non-Hispanic whites are already a minority as of 2020. It is projected that non-Hispanic whites overall will become a minority within the US by 2045. White Europeans, it's talking about, will be a minority in America by 2045.
Oh, 2045. I thought you said 20.
No, 2045. Okay. Now, let's go back to Europe. Adila Forfitu of P.O.W.E.R University has noted how right-wing organizations and outlets in Romania publicize white demographic decline, attempting to associate it with concepts such as the Islamization of Europe or gypsification of the country, the latter of which refers to the Romani people in Romania. In 2018, in a 2018 analysis, the Southern Poverty Law Center explored how right-wing extremism in Europe attempts to utilize the continent's demographic decline and the rise of immigration from Arab and or Middle Eastern countries for political gain. This is what we're witnessing taking place today in 2014. A professor at Loughborough University, Marco Antonšević, I can't pronounce his name, Marco Antonšević, research in Italy suggests that demographic change and the decline of white majorities provide space for immigrant communities to justify their national belonging and to rewrite the nation. This is what we're looking at when we're looking at this fear of white genetic annihilation. Back to the United Kingdom. In 2018, Eric Kaufman wrote a piece for the New Statesman on the demographic decline of white British people within the United Kingdom, stating that 3/4 of people in Britain in 2150 will, like myself, be mixed race. So the author who's writing that is a mixed race person. His name is Eric Kaufman, and he's saying that by 2150 will be like myself, mixed race, and highlighted political consequences of such a transformation taking place. He writes, when whites can't express their sense of ethnic loss, they turn to the seemingly more respectable alternative of demonizing Muslims, criticizing immigrants who live in minority neighborhoods, or voting for Brexit, a result of diverting concerns over ethnic change into hatred of the acceptable white. Dear family, I hope you are following all of this. Few things have contributed more to today's populist blowback than the demographic blind spot in Western political thought. In 2020, Nick Timothy, a former Downing Street chief of staff, addressed societal consequences of the ongoing demographic decline of white people in the United Kingdom. This is a difficult issue to understand and address, but the anxiety is real. White people are as attached to their ethnic and cultural identity as any other group, and faced with the reality of rapid demographic decline, may feel a sense of loss. This is what's going on, dear family. There's a little piece here where they talk a little bit about Donald Trump and his influence also in this area. It says, Trump directs his appeal at disenfranchised working class Americans, talking about those angry white men again. Trump directs his appeal to disenfranchised working class Americans by telling them that he'll make America great again, intimating that he will reverse the demographic decline of whites by humanely deporting 11 million, mostly Hispanic illegal aliens, will protect the homeland by banning Muslims from entering, and will build an impenetrable barrier on the Mexican border. You know, bear in mind, dear family, that a lot of these so-called Hispanic illegal aliens, that country once belonged to them, and it was stolen from them. Texas and all of these other areas that ultimately became white America. It continues about Donald Trump. After the inauguration of President Trump, a March 2017 New Republic article examined chief strategist Steve Bannon's advocacy for the 1973 book, The Camp of the Saints, which it described as an explicitly racist novel saturated in deep fear at the prospect of white demographic decline. Okay? One major source of perceived racial threat is demographic change. Experimental studies have shown that when exposed to information about white demographic decline or increased racial diversity, white respondents express more negative attitudes towards other racial groups. See, when they realize that they're on the decline and that we are on the rise, they become very, very aggressive and very, very warlike, dear family. This transition from white rule to black rule is not going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to be a picnic. It's not going to be something that we can just meander into. We must, dear family, prepare ourselves for some very dark days ahead, because these people, as they said in the movie Independence Day, we will not go quietly into the night. Because again, you know, that was a reflection of what they actually believe in reality. A March 2020 research article found that whites in the US were more likely to expand classifications of whiteness to include white Latin Americans when their privileged social status is threatened, for example, by the prospect of numeric decline. So they will try to incorporate white Latin Americans and say, you're white like us, if when they realize that numerically they are in the decline. So a lot of people will get roped in onto the white bandwagon, and many of our people, the light-skinned ones who think they can pass, yeah, you will be co-opted into that and you will go along, but you'll be on the wrong side of history because white supremacy is finished. It's over. It's dead. Okay? It's only a matter of time. All right? Though those Arab nations who are secretly with Israel in the destruction of their own brethren in Palestine, it's finished. It's done. You are being co-opted because, again, you believe in white supremacy. You believe that you're going to be accepted into the West. They're going to love you. I mean, literally, even Ukrainians who are white people, they don't even love you. They don't even love you. They're only using you against the Russians. Okay, you're just cannon fodder. Let me continue and finish. Dear family, July 2020 research showed that white Americans who are informed of the projected minority status of whites in the United States are more likely to support the torture of terrorist suspects. See, the more they come into the realization that they are on the decline, that their supremacy is over, the more they are inclined to embrace barbarity against others. See, hence why this genocide and these atrocities can be carried out live stream, and generally, you know, these people say nothing about it and pretend that it's something that's actually acceptable. Dear family, another element towards this is according to this article in Wikipedia, the anti-abortion movement. In Cather Pollitt's 2015 book, P.O.W.E.R, she theorizes that a lower fertility rate for white women as compared to Black and brown women might explain the support for anti-abortion movement. I don't know about that, but again, what's been admitted here in that book called P.O.W.E.R, this theorizing, is that she acknowledges that there is a lower fertility rate for white women as compared to Black and brown women. Hampshire College professor Marlene Freed's research suggests that Pollitt, that's the woman who wrote the book P.O.W.E.R, that Pollitt exposed the underlying agenda of the anti-abortion movement, including concerns about white demographic decline, conservative views, anti-feminism, and outright misogyny. Anti-immigration politics. This again brings us full circle back to what's taking place on British streets right now, even though this next piece is coming from the University of Louisville. It says, anthropology professor Stephen Gardiner has proposed how the decline in white fertility, however, is only a small part of the story. The narrative of white demographic decline is being written primarily in the language of immigration. We want our country back. Get the immigrants out, kick them out. This is the fear. This is what we are witnessing. On Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia, there is an article about the so-called French far-right conspiracy theory, the white genocide conspiracy theory. Also, not only this, but I've heard it being talked about in South Africa. Those white people who are out and out racist, who still are there in South Africa, who are literally agitating to try to have a part of South Africa for themselves. And they are daily pronouncing that Black people are trying to genocide them in South Africa. This is the mentality of white supremacy, where they still think that they're so superior that they have a right to claim parts of South Africa for themselves. And so this article goes on to talk about the Great Replacement, French Grand Replacement, also known as replacement theory or Great Replacement theory, and is claimed to be a white nationalist far-right conspiracy theory espoused by French author Renaud Camus. The original theory states that with the complicity or cooperation of replacists, elites, the ethnic French and white European populations at large are being demographically and culturally replaced by non-white peoples, especially from Muslim majority countries, through mass migration and demographic growth and a drop in the birth rate of white Europeans. Trump's new running mate, vice presidential candidate, I think recently he made a statement about, Britain being overrun by Muslims as well. So this is, widespread. This Great Replacement theory is something that is very, very widespread because of this fear of genetic annihilation. Dear family, it says, since then, similar claims have been advanced in other national contexts, notably in the United States. Mainstream scholars have dismissed these claims of a conspiracy of replacist elites as rooted in a misunderstanding of demographic statistics and premised upon an unscientific racist worldview. What that demonstrates is, like I said before, there is conflict in the ranks among the Europeans. They're fighting each other. Hence why you see these angry white men attacking their own police. You see, because they're now expounding this idea that there's a two-tier system of policing where the police favor black people against them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sick. And then there is white underclass who are against the white elites and vice versa. Dear family, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, the Great Replacement has been widely ridiculed for its blatant absurdity. While similar themes have characterized various far-right theories since the late 19th century, the particular term was popularized by Camus in his 2011 book, Le Grand Replacement. The book associates the presence of Muslims in France with danger and destruction of French culture and civilization. Bearing in mind, family, that it was the Muslims that came up as far as Spain back in the day and actually brought the West out of its dark ages, brought the West, gave them what's called the Renaissance, brought electricity and mathematics and all manner of baths and all of this. It was the Muslims that actually brought Europe out of the dark ages in the first place. But now they want you to believe that the Muslims are the ones who are going to bring them into some type of, take away their culture. No, we'll give you real culture if the truth be known. So Camus and other conspiracy theorists attribute recent demographic changes in Europe to international policies advanced by global and liberal elites, the replacists from within the government of France, the European Union, or the United Nations. They describe it as a genocide by substitution. So now white people want you to believe that they are the ones who are suffering a genocide, not really recognizing the fact and the reality that they are just the people who are in decline. Their birth rate, according to statistics that I've read by demographers, they're at zero population growth. For every Caucasian that is born, one or maybe two die. And so they are a people who are they're very old now. There's a lot of gray power, but very few youth. Whereas in Africa, the vast majority are young people. In the Middle East, the vast majority are young people. All over the indigenous world, you have an abundance of youth And in the Western world, you have old people. And so this is the reality, dear family, where they are naturally becoming extinct, and they don't know how to cope. And in their inability to cope, they lash out and they do genocide, they do murder, they do destruction, they do all of these things because of a fear of genetic annihilation. So, in conclusion, dear family, the conspiracy theory found support in Europe and has also grown popular. They call it a conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory in truth. The reality is that they just know that they are going to be replaced. They know that their imposition in the places that they have occupied is not permanent. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that Israel will not be able to remain in the Middle East. That's reality. You know, it's like me stealing something from somebody, and then the owner can clearly see me with the stolen goods and he wants it back, and I'm saying, no, I'm going to hold on to it. Well, how long?
No, you'll say it's mine.
Yeah,
It
how
belongs
long?
to me.
Yeah, how long can you hold on to
That's right.
somebody else's property when the other person knows that you've got it? It's only a matter of time before you're going to have to give it up. I mean, of course, you're going to try to kill the real owner and you're going to keep killing and killing, but it's not going to actually.
They convince themselves that it actually belongs to them. Mental illness.
Yeah, they in fact they know, Sister Claudia, they know that it doesn't belong to them. Some of them, you're absolutely right. The hubris of them is such that some of them have convinced themselves that it's, you know, when you hear some of the arguments that there was no such thing as Palestine, they were the ones who were there from, I mean, of course,
but the study guide,
even the South Africans, whites, they all say stuff like that as well, that they didn't invade, they were there from the beginning. Go ahead.
No, I was thinking of the study guide. I'm trying to think of the word, when you're arrogant, you become blinded. You actually become blinded. You just cannot see because you're so arrogant. You become blinded to reality. And you believe what's in your mind, which is totally not the reality. We're watching blindness.
And you're describing Israel, beloved. You see, I mean, imagine, you see, because they can't see what we can see.
That's right.
They actually think that what they're doing, they can get away with.
That's right.
But you can't get away with that. Nobody can do what Israel is currently doing and walk away and everybody's just going to live in peace. You have absolutely, literally, you've signed your own death warrant. Even if it's not at the hands of Hamas or Hezbollah or Iran, Almighty God Allah will never, ever allow you to have any peace in that region based on what you have done. Dear family, the conspiracy theory, according to this article, the conspiracy theory found support in Europe and has also grown popular among anti-migrant and white nationalist movements from other parts of the West. Many of their adherents maintain that immigrants are flocking to predominantly white countries for the precise purpose of rendering the white population a minority within their own land, or even causing the extinction of the native population. Well, you know, again, that's them believing that we think the way they think. No, the people are coming to these white countries because you told them that these countries are better. You told them that they can live better, that they're going to be better off. You've destabilized and destroyed many of their countries, so they're running to the West because you've convinced them and you've disallowed their own countries to develop. So you've brought this on yourself. It aligns with and is part of the larger white genocide conspiracy theory, except in the substitution of anti-Semitic canards with Islamophobia. This substitution, along with the use of simple catch-all slogans, has been cited as one of the reasons for its broader appeal in a pan-European context. Although the concept remains rooted in anti-Semitism in many white nationalist movements, especially but not exclusively in the United States. Again, they're really saying what I said earlier, which is that anti-Semitism is a very European thing.
Yes.
Whether it's the Europeans in North America or in Australia or right here in Europe, the reality is that anti-Semitism, its genesis, its root is found here. It's not found in the Middle East. Palestinians are not anti-Semitic. Arabs are not anti-Semitic. They are Semitic people themselves. And most of those Israelis who are shouting and screaming anti-Semitism, they're not even Semites. They're Europeans. They're Ashkenazis from Germany, from Poland, from Russia, from these places. They're not even Semitic people. Although Camus, this is that French author, Camus has publicly condemned white nationalist violence, scholars, they publicly condemn white nationalist violence. That's Nigel Farage. They all, oh, we condemn it. They don't really. Okay, this is what they say from their lips, but really they're encouraging it because somehow they think they might be able to murder their way out of their dilemma. Although Camus has publicly condemned white nationalist violence, scholars have argued that calls to violence are implicit in his depiction of non-white migrants as an existential threat to white populations. Several far-right terrorists, including the perpetrators of the 2019 Christchurch mosque shootings, I don't know if you can remember that in New Zealand, when they shot up, killed all these innocent people praying in the mosque, the 2019 El Paso shooting, the 2022 Buffalo shooting, and the 2023 Jacksonville shooting have made reference to the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. Many of these killers and these terrorists, they said, yeah, you know, we're being replaced by these blacks, by these nignogs, by these Arabs, by these Muslims, hence why we're going on this genocidal rampage to kill these people. And so, dear family, that's what we're witnessing. Fear, Western fear of white genetic annihilation. And this is what we have to be conscious of and aware that this is what's unfolding on our planet today. It's not just local to the UK, it's all over the globe. It's manifesting itself in every part of the world where black and white meet. There is a clash, hence why the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said separation is the best and only solution. See, we got to separate. We got to go our own way because what we have found and what we've discovered is that these people are actually disagreeable to live with. This is the reality. So, dear family, I hope you got something out of today. I pray that it made sense, and I would encourage you to go away and do your own research and look a little bit deeper into these things because it's a very, very serious and important subject. And rather than getting all emotional and crazy over things that you see in the propaganda which passes as news, understand that there are underlying causes, deep-seated, deep-rooted things which are now coming to fruition and that we must be cognizant of, we must be aware of if we're going to survive the dark days ahead.
I was just listening to the minister yesterday when you said about separation. The Honourable Minister Liz Farrakhan was teaching that separation is better than prayer because he said you do your Fajr prayer, then you go back into the world, into that world of corruption. By the time it's Zohar prayer, the mind. So he said it's better to separate.
Yes.
And then we can live in peace.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
See, it's that time of
That's
separation, and everything is in Allah's hands. Every single thing that we're seeing is in Allah's hands. They plan, but Allah plans.
And Allah is the best
of
plan.
planners. Yeah,
Yes.
Allah is not random. He doesn't do.
And God is on the scene.
Oh,
today.
absolutely on the scene.
God is on the
Absolutely.
scene today.
Everything will work for his
according
plan.
to his
That's
plan.
right.
Exactly.
That's right. So
Exactly.
thank you very much, Brother Leo Muhammad.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, Sister Claudia Muhammad. And family, we look forward to seeing you. Same time, same place, inshallah. Next week, go ahead.
Yes, I was going to say, don't forget to tune in into the Final Call radio. Everything that the minister, how many 30, 40, 50, 60 years of lectures, they are so relevant to today.
69.
You could just put any lecture
on.
and it's so up to date.
You're going to learn something and you're going to be inspired and you're
right.
going to be enlightened.
You say, wow.
You're going to be raised. You're
Yeah,
going to be lifted.
absolutely. You say, who is this man?
Praise
Who
be
is
to
the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan?
That's right.
The Jesus of today. So, and don't forget to sign up to the Final Call newspaper, and the article that is in this week's edition, the Saviour's Day lecture of 2024. What does Allah,
The great
Mahdi and the Messiah have to say about the war in the Middle East, part 1? It's just so fantastic. It's one thing to listen to the minister, but to read
the words
and to digest it, because you can take your time and you can see it in front of you. So
and
don't
pass the words as well.
absolutely
Yes.
go over the words. So this is part 1. So don't forget, the brain is don't forget to what's that word?
What are you saying?
Subscribe to
Okay.
the Final Call newspaper. And don't forget to tune into NOI.org. Thank you very much for tuning in. Wherever you are on the planet Earth, stay safe. It's a time to really seek refuge in Allah. As the scriptures say, every knee will bow.
That's right.
Every
tongue
shall
will confess.
That's right.
That He is Lord.
Absolutely. We're living in the time of the
Praise be to
scriptures.
Allah.
Praise be to Allah. Have a blessed evening, morning, or day. Stay safe, stay vigilant, get training, get on to how to eat to live.
That's right.
Let's save ourselves. The minister's warning us, absolutely warning us to go against the war of obesity. Cannot be overweight in this time. Got to be able to fight.
And you soldiers, male and female, join your nation.
That's right.
Your nation needs you.
That's
Join
right.
your nation.
Absolutely.
Join your nation, family. It's time. It's time. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.